These are live visuals that you can see on your screens of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a historic two-day visit to Kuwait. In fact, Prime Minister Modi interacted with the Indian diaspora yesterday. He will be now accorded the Guard of Honor today. Prime Minister Modi's visit is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister in over 4 decades. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, met with the Emir as well as the Crown Prince of Kuwait there. So a historic visit there by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi there. Like I mentioned, this is an Indian Prime Minister's first visit to Kuwait in over 4 decades. In fact, 43 years since an Indian Prime Minister visited Kuwait. There are multiple key takeaways, the primary goals and expected outcomes of Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Emir and the Crown Prince of Kuwait. It also highlights the bilateral ties that India and Kuwait enjoy. How is this visit going to impact the India-Kuwait relationships? And there are specific areas of cooperation that will be discussed as far as this entire visit is concerned. As I mentioned, the Indian diaspora, one of the largest in the Middle East. Prime Minister Modi, he met and interacted with the Indian community in Kuwait. He also, in fact, interacted with the workers who have been there for many, many years. It also has a lot of regional significance. This entire visit has a lot of regional significance considering the strategic location of Kuwait in the Gulf region. The big question there is how will Prime Minister Modi's visit influence India's relationship with other countries in that area? This is second day of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kuwait, and as I mentioned, he is the first Indian Prime Minister in Kuwait in 43 years. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, landed in Kuwait yesterday. He, in fact, held talks with the Emir as well as the Crown Prince of Kuwait. He is also going to be accorded with the Guard of Honor there. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs, it had mentioned that there will be a review of the bilateral ties between the two countries, and that both the countries are working on enhancing the ties between the two countries. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kuwait is a historic one. It is a significant milestone in the relationship between India and Kuwait. First visit by an Indian Prime Minister in 43 years. And my colleague Mohammed joins us to get us more on this. Ghazali, this is the second day of Prime Minister's visit to Kuwait. Just break down the significance of this entire visit.
See, the very first day yesterday, we saw that how Prime Minister visited the labor camp, sending a very strong message that how the India's External Affairs Ministry or the Government of India attaches high importance to the well-being of our workforce, which we send to the other countries or especially to the Arab world. And then tomorrow he also addressed the Indian community there and highlighting the fact that how the Indian community in Kuwait has been contributing a lot. They're even training a generation of doctors, engineers, and now the all-important bilateral talks happening today. And why this visit is very significant, perhaps due to the fact that we are witnessing a kind of turbulence in the energy sector due to the conflict going on between Russia and Ukraine and the situation in Middle East. And India certainly wants a reliable partner in Middle East, which is also Kuwait also happens to be one of the largest oil supplier to India, and India relies heavily on Arab world for its oil and energy needs, and India needs a reliable and stable partner like Kuwait. So that is one significance of this entire visit. And more so, India has also improved, developed in the last 1 decade or so, and India is also a very potential avenue for Kuwait to invest into sectors where India is very active, like energy sector. India is also like getting into education sector by opening many overseas campuses for Indian universities. So besides trade ties, besides investment, defense cooperation, there will be some new avenues also wherein you will see India and Kuwait now signing different MOUs today.
Absolutely. And Ghazali, when you talk about the bilateral ties between the two countries, how important is it in that respect? And how do you think that this visit by the Indian Prime Minister impact India-Kuwait relationship?
See, Kuwait also is right now holds the presidency of the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, which includes most of the Arab states. And the situation in the West Asia is such that India will have, this visit will serve multiple purposes. One being that India will also sort of discuss with Kuwait the situation in Middle East. Second is that like India, you would not have seen Kuwait also getting entangled into the local conflict, which has engulfed the region for the last 1 year. And that perfectly aligns with India's foreign policy. You also have the energy reliance, which I just mentioned, that how India wants to have one stable partner in Middle East, and though India is also diversifying its energy needs through Russia and other countries. So from all those aspects, the visit is very significant, and more so because Prime Minister had not visited Kuwait in the last 10 years of his tenure, and no other Indian Prime Minister had visited in the last 4 decades. So India is also showing that kind of gratitude in diplomacy, and also it shows that what kind of connect India had with Kuwait. Prime Minister mentioned that in his Diaspora speech yesterday, that even before recognizing, even in 60s and before that, India had good relations with Kuwait when it comes to trade, maritime trade, as well as how the Indian currency was a legal tender back there in the state of Kuwait.
Right, absolutely. And you touched upon the fact that there is a lot of regional significance as far as Kuwait is concerned, and considering the strategic location of Kuwait in the Gulf region, how is the Prime Minister's visit there influence India's relationship with other Gulf nations now?
Oh, yes. You see, since 2014, when the NDA came to power, India has certainly look east and act west policy, which India was, the Prime Minister coined at that time. It has considerably improved. And what is very significant is that all those players who are having conflict with each other, very surprisingly, you say, or in a way that India has mastered the art of diplomacy in having engagement with all those parties separately, be it Iran, be it Israel, be it Saudi Arabia or UAE, or even countries like Syria and Lebanon, which are right now marred in this year-long conflict or a regime change in Syria. India had maintained good relations with all these players. Even with Iran, we have good relations. We just got the deal of maintenance for the Chabahar port for the next 10 years. Iran is in direct conflict with Israel, yet Israel is our defense partner, a great defense partner. We have huge trade with Israel when it comes to defense cooperation and sector. If you move beyond that, you will see these 4 stable economies of the Middle East like Qatar, UAE and Saudi Arabia. India has maintained that relations with all these countries as well. And in the previous months, on the sidelines of multiple such summits, we had reported that how Indian Prime Minister was warmly received by the leaders of the Arab world. And now coming to this part where Syria and Lebanon, India has been constantly sending aid to these countries. Even when Bashar al-Assad was facing sanctions from the West, India was one of the rare countries to have spoken about lifting the sanctions in 2021 and 2020 during the COVID period. So India has somehow managed to foster its good relations across the Arab world with multiple countries, despite the region being into conflict and in a very bitter conflict with death, devastation and destruction going on. And India continues to provide aid and you say that all the help to those region which is marred in conflict right now. So somehow this trip itself signifies the kind of relation India has fostered in Middle East in the last 1 decade.
Absolutely, and this historic visit is expected to further strengthen the friendship between India and Kuwait, paving the way for increased cooperation in various other sectors as well. Mohammed, thank you very much for getting us all the latest.